heard of DevOps, right? I know it's something we talk about a lot, especially here at Cisco Live and in the DevNet Zone, but I thought it'd be really cool to have someone here today who knows a lot about DevOps, Gene Kim, to talk about all of the things, and we're going to get to that, but Gene, thank you for being here.
Oh, I'm delighted to be here.
It's really cool. It's really hard to start with you because you've done so much. And not just as an author and a personality, but your work on the idea of what DevOps is, I think is a great place to start, and it's obviously something you talk about a lot, but here in the DevNet Zone, what we really want to do is help make these concepts seem more attainable and simpler to people who are attending who have not done them before. But so maybe you could give us a bit of a primer on, like, what does DevOps really mean to you? And we can kind of riff off of that a little bit.
Yeah, in fact, maybe I can tell you a little bit about what got me on this journey and like how I found the DevOps movement and why in that moment I knew I had found my tribe. I mean, it was, so I've spent right now about 24 years studying high performing technology organizations. And so that was a journey that started back when I was the CTO and founder of a company called Tripwire in the information security space. And my training was officially in development. I got my graduate degree in computer science, but I always gravitated towards ops because it was my observation that it was an ops where all the saves are made. Ops saved us from terrible developers who didn't care about quality, pushed to production anyway. Ops protected our data because it weren't the ineffective security people, as depicted in the Phoenix Project. And it's just, for me, that felt so, there was like a moral wrong being committed, that essentially everyone was walking all over ops. And
I can hear in the background I can hear it right now, every single ops person who's here is just like, yes, preach, man, preach.
In fact, we heard it in the keynote this morning, like when the service goes down, who do you blame? The networking people, obviously, right? And so I think what was so revolutionary about DevOps is that it's a way for developers and operations, and for that matter, QA and InfoSec, everyone to work together towards common goals as opposed to our functional silos and achieve things that could not have been achieved before.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing you touched on there, but it's just so much more nuanced and it gets lost oftentimes, is DevOps is not a thing. And I jokingly have said this before, and I know this is going to be a little spicy, and I apologize everybody, but when I've seen people with titles at companies, or a company comes up with a title for a job that's like DevOps engineer, my first thought is like, I don't think you're doing DevOps right. Because it is not a single role. The whole purpose of it is to be a way to bring people together to do more than they were going to be able to do by themselves. Yeah. And that is huge, and it's one of the reasons why DevRel and DevNet exists is to help people see that as network engineers, you can be even more than you are now when you learn to talk the language of a developer and vice versa.
Right. In fact, and I think it's I think sometimes frustrating that some people have a very kind of a strange definition of what DevOps is. In fact, this is what we're trying to explore, and I've been working on a book with Dr. Stephen Spear from the MIT Sloan School of Business. And we're trying to answer the question, why do organizations work the way they do, right, in the ideal and not ideal? And what really is in common between DevOps, Agile, the Toyota production system, safety culture, resilience engineering. And our conclusion is that they are all incomplete expressions of a far greater whole. And one of the things I'm just so delighted by, so in this book that's coming out in November, is called Wiring the Winning Organization. And we're looking at why is it that you can have one set of organizations that fully unleash the full creativity and problem-solving effort and capabilities of the people, and you have others that constrain or fully extinguish the full capabilities of people. It's the same organization, and our assertion is that the only thing different is how they are wired. And so the simple metaphor that we make is, Gene and Steve moving a couch, right? You think it's just all brawn work, but it's actually brain work. When they pick up a couch, there's a lot of problem solving going on. Where's the center of gravity? How do you go down a narrow set of stairs?
You're making me think a lot. I won't say the name for copyright reasons, but a very popular TV show that's not on the air anymore with 3 people trying to take a couch up the stairs and constantly trying to twist it.
Yes, no, exactly.
You know the one? It's like, I'm thinking that when you're describing it.
No, exactly. And so they are doing joint problem solving together, and here's the kind of proof point of that. It's like we as leaders can make their jobs very difficult. We can turn off the lights. We can put on a lot of background noise, right, so they can't communicate and coordinate. Or we can separate them by a ticketing system so they're not allowed to talk to each other directly. And all of these things make it almost impossible for them to achieve the goal. And so that really does, I think kind of the world before DevOps was, it's like Steve and Gene operating without being able to talk directly to each other.
It's almost like this, it's an interesting dichotomy in that for so long, and we're dealing with this now with hybrid, the idea of hybrid work, is so many businesses you read about, and I won't say names, but are like, oh no, we want people back in the office. We want people back in the office. Okay, fair. I can empathize with the idea as a leader. I don't ascribe to it personally, but hey, to each their own. But the thing that's interesting is you bring people back into an office and then you still separate them by it. It's like the whole reason why we have people in a space together is to talk and build relationships, get up on a whiteboard and start drawing out, get on Miro or something like that. It's like, let's just start coming up with ideas. But when you forcefully separate them, it's like, well, in that case, why not send them home? Because if you're gonna do that anyway, what was the point of putting, like, you want to break down barriers, reduce the silos, whatever terminology anyone wants to use. You want to do that because then the people can talk to each other and realize, oh, we're not really that dissimilar from each other. How do we actually solve this?
I think you bring up a great point, and it really kind of begs the question, right, to use a couch metaphor. There are certain situations where we call that under-couched, right? It's like, where are situations where you are trying to solve a problem together with someone and you just can't get direct access to them. Or you're going through a ticketing system or an intermediary where the best thing you can do is actually put them side by side or on a WebEx call, whatever, right? So that they can solve the problem together. So that's certainly one domain, but there's other places where there's too much couch, right? You're trying to get one thing done, but you have to communicate and coordinate and prioritize with 25 different people. No one can get anything done, and we've lost freedom of action. We've lost the ability to act independently. And so, sometimes the goal is create a couch where it doesn't exist, or sometimes it's to saw the couch into different, smaller pieces, so instead of, maybe it's not even a couch, it's 2 chairs. Steve and Gene can move 2 chairs independently without any need to communicate, coordinate. And so I think your point is a great one, is like maybe it would be helpful in these return to the office discussions is like, where is it most necessary? Who, when, why, what are they going to be talking about, et cetera? And I think that can allow us to have more nuanced and informed judgments about, about all those things.
I really love this idea, this new project you're working on. Specifically, I like the wiring piece of it, because you're really getting to the human relationship that is what matters so much more than the process they're going through. Because if you can't talk to another person, what you do on top of that kind of doesn't matter. So I love that. That's a really interesting perspective, because we very much can start connecting people. It's almost taking a step back in Cisco's history to the human network idea that we had way back when. But it's still the important through line that is running through everything that we deal with.
Right, and I think as a leader, the leader is ultimately responsible for creating the right wiring. And so we can overwire systems, I suppose, where no one can do anything independently, right? And or we can split up systems so that we can unleash productivity, right? So whenever we talk about microservices, in most cases, is really to decouple systems to regain independence of action, and to ensure that mistakes in one module don't blow up and cause catastrophes in all modules. So to me, it's just been such a rewarding but intellectually challenging exercise. But
I believe it.
I cannot overstate just how much I've learned in this process.
That's so cool. When can we expect to hear more about the project?
Well, if all goes well, the book will come out in November.
Excellent.
And if anyone has any interest in getting early access, just Google Wiring the Winning Organization, Gene Kim, Steve Spear, and there'll be a mailing list where we'd be super motivated to send you more information.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Gene, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. This is just such a good conversation. And there's so much more to talk about. I'm stoked to see when your book comes out.
Oh, fantastic. And hey, have a kick-butt remainder of your week.
Appreciate it. Thank you.